What's up, everybody? Welcome to another, I think this is our 9th version of Learn Lightroom Live. This is going to be, we're going to be talking about flow editing today. What is flow editing? That's just a made-up term. It's a made-up term that I use to describe kind of the overall process I use to shoot more and edit less, right? That's kind of our goal today. I think everybody out there wants to be shooting as much as we can, and we want to edit as little as possible. And so one of the questions I get asked the most is, can you really edit that fast? So today I am going to demonstrate in real time that yes, I can edit this fast, that we will edit something like 400 photos in the next 40 minutes. And they may not be perfect, but man, they will be good enough to deliver to a client. I know because I just did this yesterday for another client. We delivered 750 photos. I think I processed them in less than 2 hours, I think. So that allows me as a professional photographer to shoot more, to make more money because I don't spend all my time editing, so I can take on more jobs. And so it allows me to generate more revenue. So for those of you who like to make money with photography, I think this will be very beneficial. I think for those of you who just don't like editing in general, I think it'll be beneficial. And really, if you can just take one thing away from this and maybe learn one new thing, hey, that's still going to be beneficial, right? So if you have questions, as always, go ahead and throw them in the comments. I try to get to them as best I can. When I'm doing the Lightroom ones, it's a little bit harder because I have to look in so many different places. I have two 30-inch monitors, and I really need one more for live streams. So maybe I get my laptop set up here. I'm not sure, but I need more screens because I have a whole bunch of stuff going on. So for today, that is not what I want for today. There we go. Kind of what we're going to be doing, right? We're going to be talking about flow editing. I want to talk some about what we're going to do at the shoot. And then let's look at what we'll do on the import. And then the bulk of it's going to be while editing. But I want to talk about a few things during the shoot time. And then kind of just one or two things I just want to touch on for export, because I think it's something that can save you a lot of time. There's some resizing and file sizing that we can do there that can save us a whole bunch of time in post. My goal is to never have to open a photo in Photoshop if I can. There's obviously some things that I have to do in Photoshop, but I don't want to do resizing in Photoshop because that just takes forever. So I just want to show a couple things there that I think are beneficial. So let me talk about real quick just some things that I do at the shoot. And people like Steven have heard me say this before, but in the field, like when we're out shooting, when we're out in the field or in the studio, we're doing whatever we're doing, we're there to capture data. Okay, it's not a photo yet. We don't have to be perfect with our crop. In fact, I would say be maybe 5% wider than you think, because you might have to rotate, you might have to do some lens correction, you might have to do something. So be a little bit looser in your crop, just a little bit, not much, right? But we're there just to get good data, and then in the edit, that's where this stuff is going to come out. That's where the photos are going to get made. Here's something that used to be controversial. I don't think it is anymore. But when you know you miss in camera, just delete it. And I'll get into this a little bit more, but just delete those photos that are bad. Like sometimes I'll accidentally just like hit the shutter, didn't mean to, or like the flash didn't fire, or I don't know, something happened, right? And they're just obvious misses. I don't mean like artistic misses. I just mean like it was a picture of my hand as a setup shot. Well, I don't need that photo. Or I'm taking a picture of just the sky just to get a data reading. I don't need that photo, right? So just, we want to, from a high level, we want to only edit and look at the photos that we need to edit, and get rid of all the fluff. So in the field, one of the things I do is I delete my obvious misses. The other thing I do in the field is I rate. On the back of my cameras, I shoot Canon. There's a rate button, and I can rate my photos. And so if I know, like, if I have a hit, and if I take one, I'm like, man, that's the right photo. I'm just gonna give it a 1 star, and then I can filter for that on import, and I can look at just the ones I thought were hits. And so it narrows the ones I have to look at. And if I start with my best, I can edit those, and then we'll sync the rest, which is kind of the whole point today. But the biggest key is shooting consistently. Shooting consistently. And by that, I mean, take a few shots to get your light right, then don't change your light. Or determine what the light is. Maybe that's your ambient, and just don't change it, right? In general, the light doesn't change that fast. Get it right for one photo and then shoot the next 20 without changing your settings, or the next 50 or the next 100. Because when you bring them into post, you can really have huge efficiency gains if you can shoot consistently in the field. I don't mean the entire session has to be at the same settings, but for each set, right? So for every 20, 50, 100 photos, shoot those consistently. Take 2 or 3 to get dialed in, and then shoot consistently. And I'll show you that here in a second. And then the other one is just repeat, right? So get your settings right, shoot a set. Move the camera around, move your lights, do your next setting, and then get your settings right and go. If y'all have read my Patreon post, which I assume most of y'all have, but I talk about the anagram camera quite a bit. And camera is composition, ambient, main light, edge light, rim light, action, right? But it's a process for taking a couple shots to get your settings right. And then that A is just the action. So once you get set, just go. And then it's going to be much easier to edit. Okay. We making sense so far? We doing good so far? Yeah. Hey, Kim. Hey, guy. What's up? Kim Bob. All right, we'll go with Kim Bob. That's fine. I had to pop over here real quick, just check my settings. So yeah. Okay, so those are just some things. The hardest thing is to learn to shoot consistently. It will really save you time in post. So if you are a Patreon member, I did send out a post today. You should have this presentation. So if you want to be a Patreon member, patreon.com/Azulux. There you go. There's my radio voice. I was always told I had a face for radio, so why not use it, right? Why not just go, hey, and welcome everybody to the Learn Lightroom Live, episode 9 with Josh Baker. See, I can do it when I want to. Otherwise, I'm hopped up on caffeine and I just go crazy. Okay, so on import, this is the next place that efficiency can really happen. And I uncheck, in the field, I delete when I'm thinking about it. I cull in the field and during downtime. But then on import, I'll do another round of culling. I don't even import the files that I know are bad. And again, these aren't close. These are obvious bads, okay? They're not maybes. They're no, right? And so, again, it may be a picture of me shooting my hand. It may be, my flash fired, I took a picture of my foot, right? I don't want to bring those in because once I bring those photos in, I back them up as a set, okay? And so I don't want to waste hard drive space and I don't want to waste bandwidth backing up, okay? And so the less photos I import, the faster my import is, the faster it can build all of my preview renders, and the faster all of my photos back up. Again, all of that leads me to less time at my desk, more time shooting. Okay. Also, I build one-to-one previews. I'll show you where that is. I get all my file previews for any shoot done at once. I don't want to build as I click because once I sit down to edit, I want to go as fast as possible. So for me, it's one-to-one previews. Now you can set how long those previews stay under preferences. Yeah. Now, if I'm in the field, like if I'm on a multi-day shoot, I'll bring an external hard drive, and on import, you can write to 2 locations at once. Again, I'll show you this in just a second. So the first thing I want to show, so like on import, I took a photo of, I don't know if you can see this right here, but I took a photo just of my softbox just to see if it was firing. I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. So I just took a picture of that. And then my light settings were way off, and I blew out the photo, like obviously bad. And so what that allowed me to do then was, let's take a look over here. What that allowed me to do, if we can see this, right? That photos should have been in between 51 and 52, but they're not there. So I just didn't import them. And what that means is I didn't have to worry about it rendering a one-to-one preview of a file I didn't need. And I don't have to back up a file I knew I was going to delete. And really, it's just a quick check. As I scroll down, I just kind of scroll down. If there's a set, one or two, or a set that I know are misses, I just uncheck them. It's really simple. It takes maybe a minute to go through like 500 photos and just kind of give like a visual check. Like it, and you might not get them all, but you're going to get enough. You know, probably 1 to 5% for me on average, right? You know, the focus completely missed and my subject's just obviously out of focus or whatever. All right. And let's see. So that's where these should be, right? But they're not there. The other thing on, why do I have this screen? Oh, yeah. So on import, this is where I go to build previews 1-to-1. And then the second box here, oh, you can't see that yet. So we have build previews 1-to-1. There are ways to make your import faster, but it will slow down your editing, right? So there's 4 different selections, right? There's standard, 1-to-1, minimal, and sidecar only. It will make for a faster import, but it'll make for a slower editing, especially if you're zooming in, okay? And then for the second one right here, there's a little toggle to make a second copy too. So if you're in the field and you want to write to like your laptop's hard drive and to an external drive, this is how you can do it all during one import session, okay? And so that really makes a big, big difference in the field. So like if I'm just shooting on my laptop in the field, then I can bring that hard drive back to my desktop and plug it in and kind of make it work.
What?
Instead of having to come back and have, you know, 15 different SD cards I have to juggle again. They'll all be on in the right locations on a external drive. Okay, does that make sense so far? Cool. Okay, so here's the big part, right? Here's the reason we came. So what is this process going to look like? Well, let me flip over to my set just to kind of give you a rundown of kind of what the visuals are. So we can see, so just take a look at my thumb strip down here. If y'all can see that there. Right, we have this set where we're shooting Jessica. What's up, Jessica? What's up, Guy? How are y'all doing out there today? Jessica is one of our patrons as well. And we shot these on Saturday in a parking garage downtown. And it was great because we got a whole bunch of different lighting setups. So we kind of shot this first set this way. Okay, just a 2-light setup. And then we shot... these were actually shot into directly into a softbox. So this is just ambient light, just open shade, and then shooting directly into a softbox there. So there's another set here. We did a bunch there. And then we did this with buildings, and I'm going to show you how to use the transform tool. Right, so there's these building sets. Look at those sparkly shoes. And then we changed positions again, and we got more of this kind of like up close in the sky. Kind of feel. There's Jessica's fun faces as always. Look at this one of me. Yeah, what's up? Jessica took that. And then we did this like very hard light, edge lighty set. These are unedited, right? So just those. And then, right, we did these in this orange dress, which was, there's our setup shot for that. We had a beauty dish and a white softbox there. We got some of that. And then the natural light started doing really cool things. We got these like really cool, just like little shafts of light, little beams of light. So I was like, hey, go stand over there. And then we flipped that around. So we just did 180 and we shot just into the sunlight bouncing off the federal courthouse. And we got this really fun, glowy light. And then it was in the parking garage. It happened again. Look at, there's my self-portrait. That's me looking like long legs. And we just use that. To our advantage. Okay. So, right, we have different sets. And I can show you that once I got my settings right, I'm at ISO 640, 5.6, 1/500th. I just didn't change, right? They're all the same because the light's not changing, right? The light's not changing. Not enough to matter in the 5 minutes for each setup, right? So all the same settings. We didn't change anything. All the same settings, okay? And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna just show you how I flow edit, okay? And so the basic idea behind this is I want to edit a good photo from each set, right? We're gonna sample it, and then I'm just gonna sync them across. So because I shot consistently, I can sync very easily, and the settings are gonna be really close. All right, really close. All right, so in general, what that means is I'm going to pick just a photo in the middle because the first 5 photos I might still be dialing in my settings. So I don't want to pick one of those. I want to pick one in the middle when I was actively shooting because that's the most representative of all the photos around it. Okay, I'm going to edit one, right? There's an edit for it. And then I'm just going to select, right, a group of them and hit the sync button, right? The sync button's going to bring up this dialog box. Now, for me, generally, I do not sync crop. I don't want to sync spot removal. And that will cause you a lot of headaches. This is one area where Capture One is better, actually. Capture One auto sources, it resamples the spot removal tool. Lightroom doesn't. And so you can get some really strange effects if you sync your crop because it'll pick exactly the same locations for your dust spots, but even if your scene has changed, and it'll give you some very strange. So I typically don't do spot. I don't do crop because every photo is a little different. I typically don't sync my local adjustment brush. I usually do my graduated filter and my radial filter generally. And then transform. We're gonna talk about this one a little bit more here in just a minute. But I tend to do upright mode and not copy the transforms or the adjustments. If I was shooting on a tripod and every photo was the same, I would want to do transform and transform adjustments. If I want it to just be auto and have it update, I want to just select upright mode because then it'll resample the upright mode. And that one took me a while to figure out. But that's kind of the best way to do that. And generally, I leave everything else there, and unless there's a specific reason why not. But this is kind of my general sync, right? Is no crop, no spot, no brush, no upright transform, but upright mode, and then just sync them across. So we're going to edit one. We're going to select a group from that image, sync. Another group from that set, sync, and then we're done. Now, I want to edit just one per set because really what I want to do is each set I want to have maybe a specific look. And I don't want to waste all of my good creative energy at the beginning of an edit session on kind of more of the tedious aspects of like making sure my verticals are vertical or making sure my exposure is just right. I want to get maybe 90% of the way for one photo in each set. And then we'll go back and take a look at them in a minute. Once we kind of do all of the hard work, okay? And so then we're just going to take that photo and sync it out across. Okay, very simple, very simple. And so you can see that the camera settings for all of these, so there's 11 photos here, they were all the same. ISO 50, 85 millimeters, f2, 1/1000th, high-speed sync is awesome. The red photo here is, the one in red is the one that I edited. And then I synced it to 15, and then I synced it to 26, okay? And this is just there to say what I just said. Now, a question you might have is, what's the difference between sync, previous, and preset? Good question. Glad you asked that. Preset, right? So let me flip back over here. Let's go to, not that. Okay, so for sync, right, if I take this photo here, this is the one I edited, right, it's in red, right, I can go shift, and let's just bring it all the way out to 51, okay, and I'm just using my scroll wheel to move that thumb strip, okay, I'm just using my scroll wheel. I hit sync, it's going to bring up that dialog box, I hit sync, boom, they get all of those instructions copy over, okay, and you can see them kind of repopulating, okay. Now, I could also, right, I could also go to this photo, and then I could create a preset button. Ooh. Right, I could go up to the top here, plus button, create preset. We'll put it in the Patreon one, and let's call this Jessica, not Jesla. Jessica drives a Tesla, Jessica Betty Page, right? All right, we might call it something like that. I'll hit create, you know, and then I could go back to a photo and then just select that. Right, and I could select it and it would show up that way as well. But for a group of photos, it doesn't really work to select a group of photos first, right? Shift click and then do that. It will only go to the first one you selected. And so for me to do a bulk amount, right? See, it only does this active selection of 7. It doesn't apply the preset to 8 or 9. So for me to do a preset is just a way to save my work, right? So if I like the way that image 21 here is, I'll save it as a preset just to save my work. But as a way to apply it to a group of images, I want to use sync. Okay. Now, what does previous do? Previous takes the exact everything I did exactly on this photo and applies it to the next one. So that might be crop rotation. It might also, and you don't get a choice. It just does a straight copy of exactly what you did, right? It's just a straight copy and paste of all the instructions you just did. Okay. So previous can absolutely be useful, but just know you're getting everything copied over. You don't have a choice to select, you know, copy everything but the crop, copy everything but the upright transform. You don't have that choice. It does. It's just a straight copy paste. Okay. That makes sense so far? All right. Let's see the comments real quick because I can't see what y'all are saying. Hi. What's up? Yeah, kid fight. Yeah, there was. I know. All right. So questions so far? You guys want to see me shut up and edit a little bit? Let's go through this, right? Let's just crank through. Awesome. I think so. Awesome. All right. Let's go to Lightroom edit. Let's go ahead and go to full screen video. And let's go ahead and go to that. All right, so I'm going to go past these photos real quick just because, well, you know what, they're pretty much already done. I've already done these. But here's my test photo, right? This is getting my light right, That's a lovely photo of Jess there, right? Still getting my light right, not quite right. This is still, okay, I feel like I'm dialed in. Now I can start shooting at 7. Like 7's the first one where I think it's an actual photo. And here's kind of the backdrop of where we were shooting. All right, this is right there at like 4th and San Antonio. I love this parking garage. It's maybe my favorite parking garage to shoot at. Oh, you can't see the editing page. Ha 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 ha. Well, of course not. Because I didn't give it to you. Let's try that again. All right, let's try that again. Monitor 1 full. There we go. I just labeled them wrong. All right, so let me say that part again. So this is this is me getting my settings right. So I had my exposure right. My exposure didn't change, but my lights, I had 2 lights here, and it wasn't what I wanted. So then I went to the next photo, lovely photo of Jess, and still not getting my lights quite where I wanted them. Still dialing it in. On this photo, I'm like, okay, cool. That's pretty close to what I want. And so on 7, I'm ready to shoot. So it took me five photos to get ready. So the first photo was getting my ambient right, and that was too bright. So I took a faster shutter speed, and that got that darker. I'm like, okay, cool. That's my settings. And I didn't change my settings on my camera from 3 to 6. All I did, I was adjusting the output of each flash. Okay. And then once I was right, I never took my eye off the camera and I just shot. Okay. I just started shooting. Okay. That's all I was doing. Boom. Done. Right. And so again, all we're doing, so I applied that preset, Jessica Betty Page. Okay. I'm going to scroll over for any photos that weren't done. See this 8 through 14. They don't have any edits on them. You can tell if they have edits. There's a little plus minus button and the lower right, and you can tell if they have edits on them in that sense. So just by visually looking, we can see that 9 through 14 don't have that plus button, and so we know that they don't have any information updated. So I'm just gonna I'm selected on 8. I'm gonna hold the shift button and go to 14 and hit sync. Boom, sync. I'm just gonna do the same things I've been doing. Sync those across. They're gonna update with the look I created. Boom, done. Okay, so all the way from 7 all the way now through 51, I like where I'm at. Okay, Now I may go back and take a look at them. I may go back and like tweak the exposure, but I'll do that not now. I'm worried about getting one look per photo done and then going from there. Okay, so we're coming across a star. I don't know if you can see this, but on image 66, while we were shooting, I determined that I liked image 66. And so let's edit image 66, right? We liked it for a reason. There was something going on that I liked. And so let's just go with that, right? So this is where starring really comes in. Now, the first thing I want to do, I was shooting this on my R6, not my 5D. And so I want to change my profile from 5D4 to R6. That's going to make a pretty noticeable difference. Now, we were shooting this literally into a softbox. There was a softbox right behind Jessica's head. And I just had a whole bunch of light wrapping around her from that. She was touching it with her shoulders. And then my exposure is just for it's just the ambient. We were downtown and we were shady on all sides. So it's just this open, soft, shaded light that was getting kind of bounced around off buildings. Very soft, very broad light. So I was like, you know what? I can't do better than that. So I was going to set up a second light. I like this better. Let's just go with it. Okay, so an easy way to white balance if we want to check, we can use our eyedropper right here, white balance selector. Click on that and drag just to the white of her eye. Now that feels a little warm to me and a little red, but it's just a kind of a quick tool. There we go. So just in the whites of the eye, I think that's good. And it makes sense that we're at 7350 Kelvin because a cloudy day is 7500. And so a shady day, shade is 6500 Kelvin. So it would make sense that we were between 6500 and 7500 white balance on her skin because that's typically what a shade is anyway, right? Now I think there's a little bit too much red, so I'm gonna knock that down. Let's maybe go to like 15 red. That looks better. Okay. This lens is really sharp, and the eye tracking focus on the R6 is amazing. So this is shot, at f2, but look at that detail. Ooh, really good. You can see the eyes watering right there. That's pretty good. And then the other eye's already going out of focus. Yeah, we like that. All right, so what would I do to change this a little bit? Well, I'm going to raise the shadows kind of down here a little bit. So let's just boost our shadows. Now this is kind of a high key look, so we can see this gap in our histogram. So let's drop that down a little bit. Let's kind of bring our blacks, maybe -20. I'm going to take the whites and bring those up. I just kind of want her, I'm looking right at her skin. I'm looking in this area here, and I just want to bring those whites up. I don't know, maybe +50. But now we're kind of losing some detail, so I'm just going to take the highlights. Let's see. You know what? Highlights maybe like +15, just to get that nice smooth skin. Okay. If we hit the letter Y, we can see before and after so far. Okay. It's starting to look pretty good. Starting to look pretty good. Yeah. A little warmed up. Now, you know what? I'm going to cool it down just a little bit more. That still feels a little too warm for me. Let's go to 6,500. 6,800. Cool. And maybe +10. Nah, that's better. Okay. Vibrance, Vibrance 15 is kind of a standard feature for me. I might, with saturation, the only time I use it is to desaturate, right? I might want to desaturate maybe a little bit just to give kind of that softer, older feel to it. That's looking good. Dehaze the localized contrast, right? Maybe just a little bit there, maybe +10. I'm not going to do clarity or texture. I tend not to do too much texture or clarity as a global adjustment. I might come back to specific areas and kind of touch those up. Okay, so we're getting better. I'm going to take, I love editing the HSL panel. So let's take that skin, and I just took the little dropper under luminance. So I'm in HSL panel, luminance. There's a little eyedropper. We're going to go to her cheek and just bring up the reds. Okay, see that skin tone is generally red and orange, and we're going to bring that up. Okay, this blue right here, I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to kind of darken those blues. Okay, maybe warm up the oranges just a little bit. Okay, we like that so far. It's looking better. And then we're going to do a little color grading. Now, this is one where I like to use my voice. Now, these panels are not voice activated, but I like to use my voice to just kind of say out loud what I want. So I would say, I kind of want this photo overall to be a little warmer. So that's my midtones, right? And we're just going to kind of just a little bit of drag into the warmth. I want my shadows, right? Especially this hair. I kind of want it to go blue, right? Give it a little cartoon feel. And so I'm just going to give it a little bit of blue in the shadows. Okay. And then in the highlights, I'm actually going to go a little bit in between like green and yellow. Okay. Just to kind of give it a different feel. I'm going to blend up to about 80% just to kind of, yeah. And then let's shift the balance to the blue side, to the shadow side. A little too much, maybe right there. Cool. So if we hit before and after, it's looking cool, right? Much different look, much different feel than what we started with, yeah? Okay. And then I'm going to go lens correction. I'm going to enable profile correction for my lens. Now, if you notice when I do that, you lose a little bit of pixels. That's why I say shoot a little bit looser than you might think, just because you might have to do some transform or cropping or something. Just give yourself a little bit of room. I'm not saying shoot like crazy wide, but just like 5%, right? Because you need to do something with it in post. And then other than that, that's pretty much done. I kind of like where that looks. I like where that feels. You know, I'm going to add just a little bit of contrast, maybe like plus 10. Cool. So there's one photo edited out of this entire set. Now, I shot like, I don't know, 115. So I shot 60 photos in this. Okay. So I'm selected on 66. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, shift, click. I'm going to hit the sync button, synchronize. And it's going to write those instructions across that entire group. And then I'm just going to go the other way with it, right? I'm going to go all the way across to 115. I'm going to hit sync and done. Okay. And my settings never changed. My light never changed. I didn't change anything. I shot consistently, and that's going to give me looks. Now I can click on any photo, and it's going to look pretty done. Okay. Right. That was another photo I liked. Now, I might have to take this into Photoshop and clean up some of the hair, especially across the lips and the eyes. But in general, you know, that looks pretty good to me. Okay. So again, you can see me working my setup. I took an exposure against the background here just to get what I wanted in terms of exposure. That came out to ISO 200, 6.3, 1/200th. I'm like, that's good. And so I bet this next photo, I didn't change my settings. Oh, I dropped it down a third of a stop to 5.6. Cool. So I liked the way the building was rendering, but my lights didn't fire. That's not a great photo. Again, one light fired. There's Jessica being her weird self. Right. Don't like it so far. And I'm just waiting for the first photo that I like. There's one light firing. It's still not there. There's two light. I'm still not really ready. Okay, so let's just skip ahead to like 124. I don't know. We're just kind of picking. Okay, so now I'm shooting. All right, so now I'm shooting. I'm reading y'all's comments real quick. I'm catching up. Yeah, Steven, you're right. Yes, I can select it to apply the camera profile based on the camera on import. I can. I just haven't done it yet for my R6. I should. I've had it like 3 months now. I just haven't. Yes, you absolutely can set a camera profile based on camera model or serial number on import. Absolutely. What else? I think the wind, it was very windy. Yeah. Yeah, Scrim would have blown away, and there was only 2 of us. Okay, so I'm going to show you the transform tools on these and kind of why I think sync is such a great button. Now, if we look at this photo here, we can see all my lines are kind of running away. They're not straight. And then if we look at the next photo, they're differently running away. And if we look at the next photo, right, the lines are different a little bit in every photo, okay? So all I need to do, wow, that wind was really blowing. All right, so let's take this one, for example. It's a better shot. I am going to have, look at that hair going across your face, though. I'm going to have to clone that out. All right, we'll get to it, though. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I always start with camera profile first. R6 daylight, that makes a huge difference. I kind of like the white balance where it is, which is just daylight. I'm going to bump up the contrast maybe like 15. Yeah, and Billy, I'll come back and hit up hue and saturation here again in just a second. They just switched it in October, I think, from going from split toning to actual color grading. Oh, you mean the HSL panel? Ooh, HSL panel is hidden magic in Lightroom. That is where a lot of the magic happens, especially for skin tones. You can brighten the skin tone, which is generally red and orange, and not touch any other color channel. I'll get back to it on this photo. Just hang tight. All right. So again, I like my whites to be pretty white. So I'm getting, if we turn on our bumper bowling here, we can see that we have a little bit of white clipping there. I don't really mind. I'm going to just make it to where her face is almost peaked, but not quite. Maybe like plus 30. Okay. And I'm going to bring down the highlights, and I bet that takes care of maybe minus 10 on the highlights. Shadows, they're okay. Let's bring them up just a little bit, maybe 15. And then my blacks are already kind of right at the edge, maybe like minus 2. Boom. Cool. Just to give my blacks just a little bit. And then make your way smaller. I'm going. Hang on. I can only do so much in Lightroom. This is the other parts. Now, for me, when my flash is firing, I hate right down here where it shows. Can y'all see this area right around her feet that you can see that shadow? And so this is where I would use something like a negative gradient tool. Maybe just like minus a little bit quarter. A pretty big feather. And I just want to kind of hide that brighter spot. I want this area, maybe like minus 15 highlights and like minus 10 shadows. I just want to hide that my flash was firing down here at the bottom because I want your attention to go to her face here. I was using a spot grid on one of my lights, and I just really wanted to highlight kind of like her upper body and her face. And I didn't want that light hitting on the ground, and I didn't want it getting everywhere. I didn't want there to be a signature that a flash was used. Okay, so I want to hide my flash by using a little bit of negative gradient. The other thing I could do, I could use a radial gradient, right, to kind of emphasize that same effect. Maybe like plus a third, right? Plus 3/10, and then drag kind of almost like dodging and burning right there in the center. And we can make that face area a little bit brighter and then not really affect our corners. It's also kind of a different way you could add vignettes, kind of a custom vignette. But in this case, it's just me dodging and burning kind of in a general area. Most of my shots, it was on the right-hand side. So this radial tool should work. I didn't move. I was shooting and I just had Jessica moved. I wasn't moving. I may have moved up or down, but I was squatting, so I wasn't going very far. Again, I want this to be like crazy oversaturated, so let's just go like plus 30. Let's go crazy. Maybe like 5 dehaze, just a little. And I'm not going to do any texture or clarity. So again, let's take a look at that HSL because this is really where I do a lot of the work. So if we're just looking across this photo, we have a lot of blue, we have a lot of blue, we have a lot of blue. So by just dragging on her dress, I can raise independently just the blue levels. So all I did, there's a little eyedropper here. I click on it, and then I go to any blue pixel in the screen, click and drag down, or click and drag up. I can make the blues very bright. I can make the blues very dark, okay? And so this is a way that I can adjust just the color, the individual color luminosities. So for skin, it's usually red and orange. So I could drag that up and make that a little bit brighter. And I can make all of my reds and oranges a little bit brighter. We could also do like this yellow up here up here, and then maybe some of that orange, and just make those areas a little bit brighter. And it's also going to brighten the skin. Okay. So for this blue, I might want to bring it down just a little bit. Okay. But this allows me to shift individual color channels, and I can make those individually brighter or darker without having to do global brightness adjustments. Okay, so like this yellow line here, right, I can make the yellows brighter, I can make the yellows darker, right? I might want to make them brighter, right, this kind of yellow, to really make that yellow stand out against all the blue in the scene. Okay, but yeah, I use this, especially luminous. I use the hue sometimes, right? So if we wanted to change that blue to be more turquoise or more purple, right, we could do that. And if you notice, it doesn't change her skin, right? Can you see that it doesn't change her skin? Because her skin is a different color channel than the rest of the frame. So in this case, maybe I just want to make my blues just a little bit bluer, right? Just kind of more of that deeper saturated. I could use my hue tool and just go from blue, say everything that's blue, make it more blue. Or I could say everything that's blue, make it more aqua, right? With aqua, I can do the same, right? So it's just kind of a waterfall, but I use this a ton. And then the other thing I would do, right, just a little bit of color grading. I think a little bit of color grading goes a long way. Here's where I might just warm up the midtones just a touch. You know, in this case, let's warm up the shadows. Okay, right, because the skin right here is in the shadow, so I want to warm that up just a little bit. And then the highlights, I'm gonna cool down my highlights just to kind of make it blend in just a little bit more. Okay, then I'm gonna blend. I like 80, which is kind of my go-to. And then balance shifts, either bias to the highlights going to the right or bias to the shadows going left. I don't know. This is just, I kind of like it in this case going a little bit more to the shadows. Okay. And then I'm going to do enable profile corrections. And I don't know if y'all can see that, but this lens is my 24 to 105. This changes the geometry and the vignetting. I want to take the vignetting off. I don't want it to correct the vignetting. I don't want to add more exposure in the corners. Billy, depends on which way you can go. You can go left or right on the hues. We can take our blues and shift them. Right. In this case, I don't think a big adjustment is needed. I think it's just fine with a small adjustment. Okay. Now transform. If you notice, right, the verticals here aren't the Canon R6, Jessica. This Canon R6 is what I use to shoot these. So in this photo, can we see that this is kind of starting to get crooked over here? It's not bad on this side, but it's starting to get a little wonky over there. So what we can also do, we can either apply our auto transform, and that's going to straighten out my edges. I think this is going to do the best job for us. I want Jessica to be the curve, and I want the buildings to be straight. Okay. And if I want to apply that auto and have it update auto, I'll show you what we do. So I like where this photo is at right now. I think that looks pretty close. Again, if we hit the letter Y, we're going to see a before and after. Okay, pretty big change. All right. And so what we're going to do, just come back to the beginning. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of this set. Hit sync. And again, for transform, all I want it to do is copy the upright mode. I don't want it to give the same instructions. I want it to pick that auto mode again. Okay. And so then as I sync, it should be auto updating all of the verticals for me. Yep. Boom. So now my verticals are vertical. Yeah. Boom. Right? Boom. They're all done. See, verticals are done. Love it. All right. So again, we're just going to take 128 here. And I'm just going to spin all the way out through this entire set. Okay, all the way to 166. Okay, so that's 39 photos done in that long. Okay, that long. Now, some of these are going to turn out weird because I didn't necessarily want to have the auto transform on. You can see I might have to turn that off on some of these because I want this like askew angle. But for the bulk of them, it's really nice to be able to have my building lines like automatically update. But some of these we were shooting to get like crazy scale. So the other thing, the other toggle you can have for that, where you see the whites, so it's reshaping the geometry of the image as a way to see how it comes in. So you can also just hit constrain crop, and it'll crop to the inside of those. It'll crop to the inside of those buildings. But you see my buildings are much straighter versus the original of this one. Control D will unselect everything. So look at my original and look at what I got. Like, how quick was that as a way to auto adjust my verticals, right? And so all you want to sync is just the transform mode, not the transform adjustments. Okay. Okay. But again, all these photos are basically done. I don't have to do anything else to them. Now I might come back and give a once over just to make sure, it's in focus or something like that. But in general, like I'm pretty done with them, right? Okay. Good times. Good times. Okay. So I'm just going to show you an edit that I already did for this one. Okay. So I'm going to show you kind of a key little tool that I use. It's a gradient adjustment, and I call it Sun Grad. Okay. It's just a custom one that I created, Sunburst Grad. And what it is plus 25 orange, 0.2 exposure, and plus 30 highlights. And it just gives that kind of golden hue to it. In this case, I took it up like 50 on the temperature, because I want the top of this photo to have a lot of warmth and I want the bottom to have a lot of cool, right? She's wearing this blue. And so this is a way to add contrast to my photo, not with focus, but with color, by adding kind of this orange and teal to it, because the building was kind of teal. We're giving contrast there, and the blues that Jess is wearing and the reds in her lips, right? We have a lot of contrast there. And so I already did some edits to this photo. Now, I don't like that this side is too bright. So I might take a gradient. Yeah, I started a gradient. I need to bring it in more. So there's a gradient just to kind of knock down the highlights there, because I thought the highlights were distracting on this mink. But she was centered in almost all these photos. And so again, right, it's just, I like that edit. I did this earlier. I'm just going to go all the way back, right, from 193 to 170, right? So there's 23 photos. Sync and done, right? So imagine that you were doing this in Photoshop, and how long would it take you just to open, resize, and save a photo, right? It would take a while. It would take a while. But in this case, I already applied those instructions to 50 photos, right? It took 30 seconds after I did the initial edit. Here's one of my favorites. I think this is key Jess right there. Very good. Right. And now also this edit, right? An edit for this photo wouldn't be the right edit for this photo. Does that make sense? So we want to edit one from each set, apply those, and then we're kind of ready to go. All right, because I'm not changing my settings, right? Once I get them right, we're just shooting, right? And Jess can attest to this, or anybody else that I've shot with. Like once we're going, we're just going. I don't want to sit and worry. I don't want to look at my camera and chimp a whole lot. Okay. How we doing so far? We doing okay? I know this is a lot to absorb kind of all at once. I can't read what y'all are saying. Would transform to vertical still work in sync if you weren't on the tripod, if your camera position changed? Yeah, so really great question, Pat. Hey, Bill. Pat, that's a great question. So that is why there's different choices in the sync menu in terms of the choices you get. So like if you were locked down on a tripod and you had 100 photos where your composition didn't change, you would probably just want to apply the you would want to do one and then apply those adjustments exactly across everything. If in this case, right, I'm shooting handheld, right? I'm shooting just handheld walking around. Every photo is going to be a little different, right? And so I would want to just apply the mode that I wanted, right? Maybe I just wanted to apply auto or verticals or levels or something like that. You know, if I had done guided on a photo, I would want to apply the adjustments, not the mode. Does that? I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, when I'm syncing my transform, generally it's a case like this where I am. It's generally a case where, you know, every photo is a little different. So for me, I either don't apply an auto or it's auto if I'm going to apply something. Because I just want it to try to figure it out for itself. Now, it may give me gobbledygook, right? Auto may give me a horrible, horrible photo. It might switch it 45 degrees all the way around or just do something crazy. And so, you know, you want to know why you're doing it and when you're doing it. But for me, like in this case where I knew I wanted my backgrounds to stay vertical, auto is a great way to go. Yeah. Yeah, I froze a little bit. Yeah, I might have froze a little bit there for a second. I know. I'm a glitch. I'm like Neo in the Matrix, man. I'm moving too fast. See, this is why I need more monitors. I need to have I literally need to have my laptop up because I have a lot going on right now. I have Lightroom going. I have a live streaming software. I have YouTube going. I have a Lightroom, a PowerPoint going. So I don't know. I need Bill to hook me up with a faster chip. All I have is an i9. You would think it'd be enough to hang. Come on, Intel. Oh, I'm just laggy. Come on. Ah, the joys of streaming. The joys of streaming. I know. Like I said, I know what I'm doing. Hold on. Let's exit out of Lightroom real quick. That'll probably help. Whew. Yeah, I'm on a. How's that? Are we back? We back? We back? Core i9 9900. Come on. Stream with me. Stream with me. Stream with me. How are we feeling? We back? Are we back to somewhat live at least? A little bit better? We a little bit better yet? All right. Let's see if we can make this happen. All right. So I just want to touch on a couple of other editing tools that might be good for you. Let's see. Let's make sure we're back to like normal here. We're back to normal. A little lag. Okay, but kind of better. Kind of better. Kind of better. Getting there. I know. Coming out of the hole. I know. Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I start using a lot of like radial tools and gradient tools, Lightroom and my broadcasting software don't love me. So, yay. It looks like I'm fine now. Okay, it looks like I'm fine. Okay, so what I want to talk about real quick is some other things that you can do to edit with. So I use I use Monogram Creator. It's kind of a, I don't know, it's like basically making an arcade buttons, but you can configure them to do things like advance a photo or apply the previous. But I really use it for exposure and cropping because I hate trying to crop rotation with my mouse. It's just awful. And so I like doing it with a little joystick. Loop Deck Live I'm actually looking at. That's kind of my next thing that I'm probably going to be used because it's configurable and you can use it in more than just you can use it in just more than just Lightroom. You can use it for like streaming and audio and Spotify and XSplit and all that good stuff. You can also hook up an Xbox controller. I know people that do that, and they edit with it. They map all their Xbox buttons to do different macros in Lightroom, and you can use that as well. So there's a couple different ways to do that. The other thing I want to talk about on export, for file setting, I always keep it at 100. I don't think in today's day and age there's any reason to do anything other than 100, because if you need a smaller file size, you can just go to resize the fit and export at specific sizes. So I just don't think that it's necessary. And so what I do, I usually export like my favorites as social as well, and I throw them in my drive, and I use them for for Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. They're generally at 2048. That usually gives me about a 2 megapixel file. And then for full res, I just don't resize anything. But I do resize the fit, long edge, 2048. And then that way it doesn't matter what my aspect ratio is. It's always just going to maintain my aspect ratio and just shrink the long edge to 2048. Then whatever the short edge, it just auto scales. So to me, that's kind of the way. Also, the presets in the export are terrible. I don't ever use them. I love Lightroom. I use it every day, but that is not where I use presets, is in the export. It's just not very good. So, and then generally I just queue up a whole bunch of exports. I hit export and I walk away because then my machine just like runs 1,000 degrees as it exports 5,000 photos. But then I can just go and do whatever I want to do and not have to worry about it. So, yeah. Boom. All right. GPU hogs. I know. I know. Yes, Wacom. Oh yeah, I guess Wacom would have been another good one as well. I guess you could use a Wacom for Lightroom as well. I guess you could. I just never got on the Wacom thing. I don't know. I probably should. I have one. I just never use it. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I should probably try a Wacom. I've had one forever. Somebody gave me one. I just never used it. But I really like, this is, I don't know if y'all can see this, but this is my, the monogram. This is the older version, but it's just got knobs that I can switch for like crop rotation, exposure, white balance, and then I have buttons for like next and reject, and those work really well. But I spilled hot tea, and this one hasn't been working very well since, which is why I'm in the market for a new one. So I've been researching the new Loop Deck because I think it does a little bit more of what I need outside of Lightroom. So that's kind of where I'm at. All right, let's try this again, where it looks like we're doing better. It's invisible. Let me hold it up against my face. Here we go. We'll hold it right there because my streaming stuff, but there you go. It's right there. That's called Monogram. It's cool. Yeah, I don't know. So let's take a look. Let's edit back our photos real quick. We'll load that back up, see if it doesn't crash everything. I know I have a GPU. I have a 2070 Super, but I don't know. Maybe I have to get a bigger GPU. Try to get one of those hard to find new NVIDIAs. Yeah, not hot tea compatible. No, most electronics are not. And actually, that's a big reason why I back up everything also to the cloud, because I have two small children and we drink a lot of hot tea, and I'm always worried that we're going to spill it on all the external drives or something laying around. So yeah. So here's kind of what I would do with this photo. This is just a kind of a quick edit, but I love like the blue in the sky. This was shot at like 5:30 maybe in the afternoon, 6 o'clock. 5:30ish. But I just love this. This is just one light past her, so it's shining back at me. So it's just picking up the highlight, short light side. So those are kind of fun. And then one of the great things about the R6 is that it has a tilty flippy screen, and I can. Oh, y'all can't see these. So one of the great things about the R6 is that it has a tilty flippy screen, so I can still, it has amazing autofocus, so I could hold this camera out over the edge and still compose a photo. Whereas before I'd have to look through the viewfinder or guess. And so in this case, right, I didn't have to do any of that. So we just had a really fun time shooting. See if we can find some other photos to show real quick. Yeah, so this was like a 45 degree, just a white softbox and a white beauty dish there. And then let's see if I did an edit there. No, I didn't do. Oh yeah, we did. So here's just something we could do with that, right? Just a fun. I usually bring down my highlights. I usually bring up my whites. That's just kind of my style. Your version may vary. Somebody asked me earlier, and I didn't get to it. I'm sorry. Why would I edit in Photoshop? So great question. So what Photoshop would allow me to do is anything that I need pixel perfect. So clone heal, skin retouch, hair retouch, body retouch. That's going to be Photoshop for portraits, right? I'm trying to, if I'm in Lightroom and I know it's going to go to Photoshop, right? I'm trying to make it the best file to go into Photoshop. And the way I would do that, right, is I would just right click, edit in, and then edit in Photoshop. And so it'd bring up Photoshop, and then I can run Photoshop. And when I close it, it'll bring it back into Lightroom. So it'll round trip that file for me and keep all my organization where I don't have to go chasing like folders all over my desktop or whatever. And so I like doing it that way. So yeah, let's edit another photo. I don't think, let's look at this golden light. Oh my goodness. Look at that golden light. Okay. In this case, we'd want to crank up, right? We don't want to shoot daylight, right? We want to make it warm, right? Let's make it bright. Boom. Let's bring up those whites. Let's kill those highlights a little bit. Bring some of that detail. Bring up the shadows. And let's kill the blacks. Boom. Right. Just a quick edit there. Let's crank up the vibrance. Crank up the dehaze. Yeah. And then let's tone this photo a little bit. Mid-tone. Let's warm it up. Shadows, cool you down just a little bit. Just quickly on color grading, if you have a color vector that you like and you hold shift, it'll keep that vector and you can change the intensity. Or if you hit control, it'll keep the intensity and you can change the vector. Okay. Yeah, look at there. So again, if we hit Y, we'll get a before and after. Right, just a quick little fun. Just a quick little fun. Yeah, Billy, exactly. Yeah, so I send to Photoshop and then back into Lightroom. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Generally, yeah, generally. So do y'all want to see that real quick? I'll try to do it and make sure. Let's see if I have a close-up I can do it on. Where is a better close-up? There we go. All right, so... let's pick... We didn't shoot that many close-ups. Let's just pick the next photo. There we go. Boom. All right, so we have this photo here. And so, yeah, I would just edit in Photoshop 2021. And let's see how much this mighty Intel processor can handle. So it's going to bring it in as a TIFF. Okay, and the first thing I always do is duplicate the layer. So in this case, I would hit Control J to duplicate my layer, right? Because I don't want to mess with the original. Yeah. And my Photoshop just updated today, so who knows what it's going to give me. And then, I might do something like Anthropic's Portrait Pro, right? So then I could run a plugin inside of Lightroom, and then it kind of becomes Inception levels, right? It kind of becomes that Inception of like, where in Lightroom we send it to Photoshop. Photoshop calls in another. Oh, look at that! That is special. Wow, Portrait Pro, what you thinking? Wow. Right. So in Portrait Pro, we can select different parts of their face, and then we could, reshape the face size. We have all these different controls then, right? We can do face sculpt, right? Change the face shape. We could make the eyes bigger. Ooh, I like the arch. That's fun. We could do skin smoothing here. Right. View skin mask. It's there. Right. We could do some stuff like that. We could change, the lighting of it if we wanted to. So we can do a lot with this. But it doesn't like this type of photo. So anyway, let's say we were done. Then we could just send it back to Photoshop. I don't like what it did to the lighting there. I don't like that one. So we'll close that. We'll make another layer. We could also run something like Nick Color Effects, right? We could run something like that. We could stack different plugins inside of it. I like in Color Effects, I use it for like 3 things. I love the dynamic contrast. I think it works really well. I love this glamour glow. I don't know. I can't get over it. It just kind of adds a different vibe to it that I like. Kind of softens everything up. I don't know. Right. And then I'll just run that plugin. And then when we're done with everything, we could bring that all back into Lightroom, right? You could stack as many, filters inside of that as you wanted. But it brings it in as a copy. And so I'll show you what happens to it as soon as it finishes saving. So, right, that was our original from Lightroom, and that's where we're at now. I like it better. We just close it, save it, and then it'll show back up in our Lightroom catalog. It'll round trip back into there. And so it shows up here as, so this is the Photoshop version. It's a TIFF file now. You can see it. Did it flip back over yet? Yeah. And so you'll see it. It'll say -edit.tiff, and then the other one will be right next to it. So that's our original. This is the one we sent to Photoshop, and this is the one that came back. So it'll actually give you 2 versions, right? But I just like that glamour code. It just kind of softens it up. I don't know. It's like the only reason I have that entire NYX suite is to run Pro Contrast and Glamour Go. I don't know. I like it. So, let's see. Oh, I want to show you something else. So this is something we did. I just like the way this light was really cool. But the unedited version, the face had less light and the legs were getting more light. So as I brightened it up, the legs were getting too bright. And so what I did is I I ran a negative filter on the legs, kind of up through the torso to darken the highlights so that your eyes went to the face more than to this highlight on the quad there. So we want that to come up, right? We want the light to go to face, not to kneecaps or whatever. But this is just natural light. It was just the natural light inside a parking garage. That's literally all it was. But it was just fun. It's kind of this fun Betty Page kind of pinup style. I tried shooting into the sun, and that did not work. I had an idea in my head, and it did not go the way I had hoped to go. But again, this is just natural light as well. But a key point to all of this is I did not change my settings. Okay, I did nothing once I determined what my exposure was. I didn't change, and so that way, once I edit one photo, right, I can edit this one photo, and then sync it to all the rest. And if I like it on one, I'm going to like it on all. Now, it still gives me the option. I can always go back and edit any one particular photo if I want to. But right, if I'm trying to deliver these to a client, I don't want to have to spend time editing each and every photo. Like, it would take me forever to do that, right? We took 590 photos, right? That would take way too long. What plugin was that? That was the Nik Color Effects. The Nik Collection, and then that was the Color Effects Pro. I ran Pro Contrast, and I ran Glamour Glow. Yeah, it's cool. I like it a lot. I've been using it for a while. Right, but again, I can just take this one photo. I can make quick changes to it and just apply it to the last, 6 photos here. Even if it just gives you a good base to go back and edit on. I still think it's such a much faster way to go. Now, if you're going to take each photo and run a plugin in it, that may take some time. But at least this way, when I go to compare which ones are my favorites, right, as I'm looking, I can star them, I could color code them, and then I could filter based on what my favorites are. And it's just a way to give me more control, and it gives me a baseline on every photo that I like it, kind of. And if I need to make any tweaks, I can. Does that make sense? Any questions? Does that kind of make sense why I call this flow editing? Go with the flow. Edit one, sync across that entire set. Go to the next photo. Go to the next set, edit one. Right. Yeah. As I hear my entire computer go to whine. Okay. So I hope y'all learned something today. I hope it was beneficial, even with my, at times, laggy. I don't know why it gets laggy. I'm not sure. I have 32 gigs of RAM. I don't know what's happening. But does that make sense to everybody? Does that kind of make sense what we're trying to accomplish with editing one, going through? And then if we need to go back and adjust and fine tune any photo, we can. But we've applied a look to one photo in a set, apply that look to each photo in the set, and then do that for all the sets in our sessions. And then if we want to go back and look, all we have to do, once we've used all the energy to create the different looks, then we can just leave the tedious work to the end, right? Tweaking exposure here, there, tweaking crop rotation, tweaking crop, But that's not the creative work. So we front load all our creative work, and then we let the tedious work just kind of happen at the end, right? Then I can put on YouTube or Netflix and just watch that and just tweak those photos at the end. And I wish I hadn't spilled hot tea on my monogram, because I could just use one hand and I had a whole bunch of stuff programmed. And so I need to get another one. I just haven't. I'm still researching which one I want to get. So, who asked the question? Portrait Pro. So Portrait Pro, it runs either as a standalone software, it can run as a plugin in Lightroom, or it can run as a plugin inside Photoshop. So when you download it, it can do all of those things. It inserts itself in all 3 of those places. I tend to use it inside of Photoshop. Every now and then I will export an entire batch of photos, and then just run them. Now, you know what? I always do it through Photoshop because I'm usually doing hair retouching and blemishes and everything else. So I tend to use it as a plugin inside of Photoshop, Kendra, to answer your question. All right. So for those of y'all who are new, patrons. We had like 3 new patrons this week. So what's up, everyone? In 2 weeks, we're going to be doing our next Josh Says Mean Things, which is our image critique live stream. And there'll be instructions on it in a week, but just know in 2 weeks, Tuesday, 7:30, we'll be doing our next Josh Says Mean Things. And you can submit one photo a month, and we will critique it. And we'll say mean things about them. No, we don't really say mean things occasionally. But it's just a way to critique your photos. It kind of completes that loop. So in our Patreon, our articles are to help you to learn. Lightroom is to teach you how to edit. We have some shoot experiences as well. And then the Josh Says Mean Things is just closing that loop of getting feedback on your photos to see how your edits go, to see how your shooting went, and just kind of give you a check. So that's really what it's there for. So I encourage everybody to submit. You can just email me, josh@azulux.com. Just tag it as like mean things or something like that, so I can see it when it comes in. But yeah, we usually do like 15 or 20 photos an episode. They're real fun. Yeah, I'm wearing my Taco Tuesday shirt. I guess I should have shown that. What's up, Taco Tuesday? I did make carnitas tacos today. I'm trying to think. Anything else? I think that's it, y'all. I think we had a good time. If you have any questions, y'all can always just email me, josh@azulux.com, or you can message me on social media. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Yeah, or if you're on our Patreon, just message me there as well. Any of those work. So yeah, y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday, and try to stay warm for the rest of this week. All right, see y'all soon.